Let's talk investing.
What do you want to know?
I'd like to know more about Bitcoin in particular.
Okay. Anything in specific?
Yeah. Is it worth all the hype? I feel like it's been a topic for a while now, on and off, but more so lately on. And it just is raising some questions if I'm making the right choices.
I dove down a bit of a rabbit hole. Whenever something new like this comes up, I tend to heavily research stuff. I'm a naturally curious thinker.
You do like the rabbit holes.
Yeah. After spending some time researching it, I didn't really understand it at first. One of our friends, I won't mention his name at this time, was very much into Bitcoin. And I didn't really understand it at the time. It didn't make any sense to me. So I did a bunch of research. And I kept thinking of it as like, well, everyone calls it a cryptocurrency. I kept thinking of it as a currency. And I was like, well, I can't really like take it and go buy gas. I mean, in a roundabout way, now you can. But more or less, they take Bitcoin, turn it into USD, exchange it for whatever goods or services. So I mean, you're still using the US dollar to transact. But after a bunch of research, I found out it's not really a currency. It's more of it's capital. It's a store of capital. It's no different than gold per se. It's like digital gold. It's been referenced as digital gold by a lot of important people.
So why are people investing in Bitcoin and not gold?
Typically or traditionally, gold is actually underperformed. If you look at gold prices, the problem is we price everything against the US dollar, but the US dollar loses several percent every year in value.
It's because it's not backed by gold anymore.
Yeah, that's one of many reasons, but they keep printing it. But if you were to look at gold compared to other assets, it just underperforms. Like it underperforms the stock market, real estate. Is it safe? Is it stable? Yes, but it doesn't really perform that well. If you look at Bitcoin, where there's a finite supply, there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. With a constricted supply, you won't have inflation like you do now, and it's also decentralized, so it's not manipulated by any governments. It's not controlled by anybody. If somebody goes to war with somebody else, not to say it can't influence the price, but it's not directly correlated to lawmaking of one country or any actions by anyone.
Yeah,
entity.
we have seen some fluctuation with the tariffs, though.
It's very true. It's not completely uncorrelated to everything else, but you're starting to see more and more institutions
Adopt it.
They're adopting it and they're holding on to it. They're recognizing that it is a good store of value. And being that larger institutions are adopting it, it is somewhat correlated with the stock market. I see ebbs and flows. So it's not entirely uncorrelated, but
that's not to say in the future it might be a good indicator of what the economy is doing.
it is the first ever quote-unquote perfect money ever in the history of man. Gold and beads and spices and everything else that's ever been transacted, there's never been a finite amount, and pretty much any entity can regulate or make laws around it. But I mean, if one country were to outlaw Bitcoin, it's pretty hard to enforce that.
Right.
If you have access to the internet, basically,
That's
you can remain
interesting.
anonymous and hold on to it. And you'd only really be able to outlaw it in your jurisdiction also. It doesn't mean the rest of the world can't use it.
Right. So you say it's outperforming gold. What about stocks? Like,
It has outperformed everything. NVIDIA, the Make 7, everything.
so should I be investing in Bitcoin rather than, say, the S&P?
Well, my first questions for that is, I think your retirement and savings should be two different things. My next question would be, how long do you want to invest the money for? If you're looking to invest less than 2 years, I would say probably not Bitcoin. I would say probably a high yield savings account would be my go-to for that. You're pretty much guaranteed some rate of return. It's always fluctuating depending on the Fed rate, but say 3 to 5% would be ideal. If you're to invest in the stock market, there's nothing saying that the stock market can't dip within the next 2 years by any percent.
Is that the same reason for Bitcoin that you wouldn't? If you're looking for
Bitcoin is obviously volatile, but if you look back at a chart of Bitcoin and what it's transacted at, there's pretty much been no point in time where if you bought and held it for like 2 years or more, you haven't made money.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah. So that's the only thing. There's been times where Bitcoin's had a 50% pullback, but it always, thus far, has always bounced back and appreciated.
Right. So you're saying pretty much diversify. Retirement
Yeah, if you're
should be separate from your savings, but savings, if you're looking to invest over 2 years, Bitcoin would probably be a good move.
that's what I would do. As far as your retirement, I think your traditional stuff, stocks, bonds, ETFs are important. Depending on your age, is definitely important on how you allocate that money. Also, depending on your age, I would suggest 2 to 10% crypto exposure. Let me rephrase that: not crypto exposure, Bitcoin exposure.
Yeah, there's some weird cryptocurrencies out there.
It's pretty easy to get lost in the weeds on that. Everything else feels very speculative. I think that's another topic we can touch on a different time. But if it's not Bitcoin, I'm not super interested. Call me Maxi, call me whatever you want. But I think there's only really going to be one at the end of the day, or one worthwhile. As far as a capital, there might be some that are more service-based. But
yeah, I mean, the numbers show so far, at least. Yeah.
So I would say 2 to 10%, depending on how old you are. If you're 85 and retired, I probably wouldn't say put 100% in Bitcoin. But if you're a little bit younger, closer to our age, I definitely would say 2 to 10%, a little heavier the younger you are. There's also other investment vehicles as well. Like, for example, you have a rental. I know we've talked about in the past, do you hold on to a rental? What do those numbers look like? Do you cash out the equity you have now, sell it, and invest that in Bitcoin? I know we've considered that in the past, talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a very tricky scenario. There's a lot of factors to keep in mind there. I mean, obviously, I've got closing costs. There will be long-term capital gains. There will be fees for the real estate agent. So, I mean, I would take a hit. But, I mean, obviously, that is all money I could stick right into Bitcoin. But then what if it, like, goes down?
Gotta hold it a long time. It's no different than a rental.
That's true.
I mean, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to buy a rental and sell it in 2 years.
That's true.
And you're basically
as well.
just flipping something. It's not even really a rental at that point.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, the plan for the rental always was 20 years, the length of the loan. That way, by the time I do want to retire, I can always sell it and get a beach house somewhere, or at least a down payment on a beach house somewhere. And then, I mean, with how much Bitcoin is gaining traction, let's just say, it has crossed my mind to put those funds there, because you don't have to put a roof on Bitcoin. You don't have to change windows on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So those fees are always lurking in the back of my head with the rental property. But, like, how much do you think it could gain?
As with anything else, I think it's really hard to predict. It's also like trying to gauge what the housing market's going to do. I mean, on average, I think it was over like the last 10 years, the housing market's gone up just under 5%. It was like 4.6 or 4.9%. But in the last handful of years, it's been dramatically more than that. That's just the average. As far as Bitcoin, in the last 10 years, its average rate of return is like 74.9%. It's gone up like 75% a year.
That's unbelievable.
Is it going to do that every year or on average? It's really hard to say. Part of me says that as it goes up in price, it should be a little bit, I want to say less volatile. I think you'll see less swings, but then also part of me understands that as the price goes up, it's not like, say, Apple stock, for example, where one share just becomes so expensive that your average person isn't just going to run out and buy like one share. But with Bitcoin, it's fractional. You can buy $100 worth.
Yeah, don't they have a funny word for that too? What's it called when they split up the Bitcoin?
It's also it's divisible into what are known as satoshis. I believe it's 100,000 satoshi per coin. With being able to buy Bitcoin fractionally, you could even still stick $100 in, $500 in, any amount of money you have, and you're still going to see the same percentage return, as if you bought one stock or one coin or anything else. So I think the more people piling in, the more larger adoption by like larger corporations, governments, things like that, I think it still could grow very rapidly. I mean, there's strategies buying millions or billions at a time. I mean, I think it's still going to remain pretty volatile. As far as the housing market, it's hard to say. After crunching numbers and doing spreadsheets and stuff, I think the biggest thing with if you should sell a rental and buy Bitcoin is what was your initial investment? Is the place cash flowing, and how much equity do you have? I think those things are important. I think either way, whether you have a rental or you're looking to invest in Bitcoin, it should be a long-term investment. It's not something I would say less than 5 years by any means. I mean, typically when you invest in things like that, you're talking over multiple decades.
Sure. I mean, there are different real estate strategies that include short-term flips or whatever, but yeah, if you're looking for like a single family home or even a duplex or something to hang on to long-term, makes more sense.
If you can get into a single family or multi-family place with as little of a down payment as possible and have it break even or slightly above or below cash flowing, I don't think Bitcoin will be able to touch that, just because your initial investment is so small that it would have to compound and return at such a rate of return that it won't compete with someone else paying for the mortgage.
Right.
Because someone else is continually investing for you.
That makes sense.
But if you have to put 20% down and it doesn't cash flow, or it doesn't cash flow a lot, or say the home is older, you think it's going to need a water heater, a roof, windows, siding, anything like that, I think there's a lot of risk with that. I don't think we're going to see a drop in the housing market anytime soon. I don't think rent or mortgages are going to go down anytime soon. You just have the same risk you always would if a tornado comes through, even if hail comes through. A lot of people who haven't ever had issues with insurance, if you have a hail damaged roof and your roof is older, they don't just pay and put a brand new roof on.
No, it's prorated.
It's prorated and they depreciate it. So you may only see a small portion of that and you'll have to come up with the rest out of pocket. So there's risks like that. I mean, even if weather comes through and you have a 10-year-old roof and there's nothing wrong with it, if it gets beaten by weather and needs to be replaced, it's just a risk you take. Mm-hmm. Insurance will only cover so much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you see some risk there. There's always the risk of somebody trashing it, but
we got some really good tenants.
Yeah, there's some strategies on that either way. Where you buy, how much you charge, how will you take care of them. I mean, there's things that go along with that too.
Yeah. So I guess what you're saying is it's a horse apiece right now just because we can't predict the future.
I think the biggest thing is how much money you have available, how much you can get in. Like, what would your initial investment be on a rental? If you could get into a rental, it also really depends on your demographic. Because like where we're at, what did you pay for your rental, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, no, that's fine. In 2022, end of 2022, it was $160 is what we got it for, as a 3-bed and 1.5 bath. Even
at this point in time in the same locale, like you can't buy a single family for that.
There's actually a property 2 doors down that does have one extra full bath, but it is going for $230.
Yeah. If you can get, so the biggest thing is, like, I want to say if you can get in for 5% down, but if you live in say LA and 5% down is like $500K, that's a little different than 5% down here. So it's hard to say, but I would say in our locale, for your average median single family or multifamily across the U.S., if you can get into it at a low percentage down payment and it will cash flow, I think there's some advantages there. You're also taking some risks, but
that's with any investing. But
it's really hard to say with Bitcoin. I do not think Bitcoin's going to zero. In order to beat it, based on the calculations I did on what the numbers you give me for your rental, Bitcoin would have to return on average 15% a year over that 20-year loan. Well, 17 more years based on what your place is worth today.
Yeah.
You'd have to return 15% every year.
Which, I mean, it's been exceeding.
It's average
as of late.
It's average 75%. But for those who haven't done those kind of calculations, if you have low rates of return early on, it dramatically affects the end result. If you have
'cause compounding.
If you have a 20% negative growth early on, is huge compared to just 15% every year. Even if it does 100% one year, If it's later in the cycle, it's dramatically different.
Yeah.
So it's hard to predict because you don't know if Bitcoin's going to go up 50, down 20.
And if we did, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. I still think it's a safe play for sure.
Interesting.
I'm looking at both.
I was just going to say, yeah, the goal would probably be both, right?
Mm-hmm. You also have a lot of tax advantages with real estate, obviously, that you don't necessarily have with Bitcoin.
So you talk about doing both. Is there, like, can you leverage the Bitcoin you have at all, like, to secure a property of some kind?
Yeah, more and more companies, Strike being one of them. I know Michael Saylor is talking about another one. There's several companies coming out that a loan against Bitcoin.
Sorry, who's Michael Saylor again?
He's the founder of Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy. They're a Bitcoin treasury company. They basically just buy Bitcoin and hold on to it.
Yes, got
That
it.
is their whole premise at this point in time. There's several companies like Jack Mallers' company, Strike, are talking about offering loans against Bitcoin. I don't think that's out to market yet, but it should be coming very soon. To start with, they're talking about like 9 to 13% interest rates, and they're hoping to drive that down with greater adoption. So I think we'll see.
Eventually we could be saying like same rates as the bank, really.
That's the goal.
Huh.
So at this point in time, you can borrow, say, up to 60-ish%, I believe, of the value of your Bitcoin. They take your Bitcoin as collateral and they put that in a vault, and it's not rehypothecated. Some other companies have done this in the past. They've taken that Bitcoin as collateral, but they didn't quote unquote set it aside.
Oh boy.
And they got into some trouble, like BlockFi being one of them, Celsius another one, and
Celsius?
no, not saying Celsius. And they're no longer with us. But there's been some. It's not any different with early banking, and now there's FDIC insurance. I mean, everyone thought a gas car was stupid when they had a horse, and now everyone drives a gas car. But I think we'll see lower interest rates with wider or greater adoption. I think a lot of the people are catching on with large sums of money. That worst case scenario, if somebody defaults, they have an asset that's averaging going up 75% a year, and if it doesn't default, they're getting 10-ish% interest or rate of return. So I think we'll see interest rates come down with that. But one strategy is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible, borrow against it. You can buy rentals per se and have other cash flowing assets. If you buy it and never sell it, you don't recognize a gain per se.
That's true.
If I wanted to borrow against my Bitcoin, it's appreciated more than what I've paid for it. So I can borrow against that, use that as leverage, and not have to actualize a gain, also known as pay taxes on it.
That sounds really beneficial.
Yeah. So everyone says buy it, hold it, don't ever get rid of it. Michael Saylor, we mentioned a million times, he often parallels owning Bitcoin to like owning 100 acres of Manhattan.
Interesting.
Nobody knew Manhattan was going to be Manhattan, and if you could have 100 acres of Manhattan, who wouldn't want it?
Right.
Knowing what it became. So it's basically the same thing, but it's digitally. So the whole point is to accumulate as much as you can and never sell it. And then basically you can loan it out. You can stake it, which is loaning it, and get interest on it, or you can borrow against it. And you can buy other cash flowing assets or other ways to pay yourself.
This is all really good info. It sounds like we're in a world of opportunity right now, and this is just another avenue that people could take if they wanted to chase financial freedom.
I'm still stacking away in Bitcoin. Just putting money in my retirement every week, my long-term savings account in Bitcoin, and drove past a rental and looked at a rental today, and I don't think it's the one, but.
And the rest of it's going to Celsius.
That is true.
Let's talk 5K. 5K, 10K, not running. Talking 5K cash. You have it in your bank account. What do you do with it?
I don't think there's an easy answer for that.
Let me rephrase. You have 5K in your bank account, and you're looking to get a down payment on something, whether it's a rental, a business, or even a car or
a house. What if you're in an apartment?
Exactly.
You want a house. Okay.
So that's our goal.
You're looking to make a larger purchase. Well, depending on what that purchase is, I think 5K down on a car it could be a possibility. If it's something more expensive, like a home rental, things of that nature, it depends on how much of a down payment you're going to need, depending on where you live. If it's 20 grand, 50 grand, etc.
That's true. For funsies, let's just say I want to double it.
If you want to double it, I would put it in a high yield, and I would add as much as you can, if weekly or biweekly, depending on how often you get paid. And I would add as much as you're comfortable, whatever your pain tolerance is. I'd add that in every week or 2 weeks until you get to that point. If you're trying to go more than that, longer term, you also need to extrapolate and figure out how much you can put in weekly or biweekly and how long that would take with no growth.
That's true.
If you're trying to go 5K to 50K and you can only afford to put in $50 a week, $100 a week, it's going to take you a while. Then I would say Bitcoin. I would say open up a brokerage, Coinbase, Swan, River, probably the biggest three out there right now. I would say open one of those, and I would strongly encourage people to invest in Bitcoin.
Interesting. I don't know.
Especially if it would take. I mean, if it's going to take more than 2 years, to me, the answer is always Bitcoin.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't studied currency or investing, or if this is all brand new to you, I would encourage people to just do 5 minutes of Googling and just do a little research on what inflation is, what it's done to the US dollar. I'd be willing to bet if I asked most people, like, do you know what the half-life of something is?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the term.
For those who don't know, half-life, it can be referenced to a lot of things, like carbon dating, like if they're dating old bones. Basically, it's the amount of time it takes for something to get cut in half. Do you know what the half-life of the US dollar is?
I do not.
It's like 10 years.
That's it?
So if you have $1,000 today, in 10 years, you'll have the equivalent of roughly $500 of buying power. That's why Bitcoin's so powerful, is because they're not printing more and more and more every day. Yes, they're mining it, but it's still a finite amount. And the further along we get in the mining process, the less we're mining. We go through another halving, which is a whole nother conversation. I won't delve too deep into that, but
yeah. So needless to say, if you have $5,000 in the bank and you're looking to double it, or even make more money on it, or even just don't need it, you should probably put it somewhere else other than the bank.
I very, very strongly suggest not leaving it in a traditional savings account that earns 0.25%. I would put it in a high yield. For a while lately, it's been like 5%, I want to say, or more in a high yield. I think it's backed off a little bit, but on average, the U.S. shoots for like 2.8% inflation. Like that's their target every year.
It has not been that.
Yeah, there's a few years lately it hasn't been that. It's been much higher than that. But even if that's the goal, if you start with $100, like next year you lost $2.80 in buying power. Everyone's saying everything is getting more expensive. It depends on what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing it to the US dollar, yes, everything's getting more expensive only because the value of the dollar is going down. Since the US dollar was created, it's lost over 99% of its buying power.
Already?
Which, if you think about it, isn't all that unrealistic, because you think back in the day, people used to buy cars brand new for $1,600. A house was $12,000. You can't buy a house for $12,000 anymore. You're talking about a gallon of gas used to be substantially less than $1.
Yeah. My mom constantly told me stories of times like her dad would give her $5 and tell her to go to the store and do a run. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a lot of groceries for $5.
I remember growing up, like my parents would fill their gas tank with a $20 bill.
Oh yeah,
you
for
can't
sure.
do that anymore. So every day you hold on to US dollars in a savings account or in your pocket or in the bank, you're essentially just losing money.
And the worst part is it's long enough that you don't realize it, but it's still short enough that it's going to hurt when you do realize it.
It really does. And a lot of people, that's the whole reason you have to invest. Like retirement, if you were to just save that money, you would be so dramatically far behind, it wouldn't even be close. The power of compounding, and ideally, if you can shoot for a 7% rate of return and 2.8% inflation, you're growing every year. But if you're putting it in a savings account, and we see years like we have in the past where it's like 18% inflation, you lose a lot of value very quickly. And almost like inverse compounding.
So scary. It's really eye-opening.
And that's why a lot of people in the past have invested in gold and silver and things like that. It's just a better thing to hold on to than the US dollar.
I mean, what about Pokemon cards?
I'm sure those have appreciated as well.
I have no idea.
We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
I'm glad we're talking so much about retirement. How old? What's your target? Like, when are you trying to retire?
That's changed over the years for me. I would love to retire early, but I also want to retire comfortably, and that's kind of having your cake and eating it too. It really depends over the next couple decades how much I can save. I'm currently not married, but I think I'm with the person I'll end up marrying.
Ooh, that's bold. Do we want to cut that out?
Nah. Finding someone that aligns with your financial goals is very important. I think with where I'm at right now, if nothing changes and I continue the path with the person I am with, I think I can retire early. And I think I can retire comfortably.
What are we talking early? Like 50, 55, 60?
I just went through some projections the other day. I actually took one of my retirement accounts from previous employers that I had someone managing. I wasn't overly impressed with their performance of that account. So I actually just rolled that into an IRA, and it's self-directed at this point. I took it over.
Nice.
The transaction just came through a couple of days ago, but my projections or what I'm shooting for is I'd like to retire at 60, but we'll see.
I feel like that's a good goal. My dad, retiring this year, he also retiring early at 60. But I know some people have other goals like 50. Mm-hmm. And that seems so early. Like, yeah, it must be nice, but like, I don't know. Have you thought about retirement at all? Like, what does your day-to-day look like? Like, what do you want to do every day in retirement?
For me, retirement, the way I've always looked at retirement, so I've always had laborious jobs, jobs that aren't necessarily good for your body or are definitely going to take their toll. I don't know if I'll always remain in those jobs, if I'll move up, if I'll end up in management or corporate or whatever. Sure. My goal has always been to quote unquote retire early or be able to, but not necessarily retire. I want to be able to retire at 60, but if my health is good and I want to keep working, I can keep working. Inversely, I do not want to be 72 and not able to retire.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
So my goal is 60, but I mean, I could work till the day I die if I'm happy doing it. Yeah. It's basically just freedom at that point. So I'm shooting for 60.
Just to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And if I want to keep working, I can keep working. If I'm also not opposed to starting a business at 60 or finding a part-time job or doing anything to make money or just occupy my time. If I have enough hobbies, if I have a bunch of grandkids I want to spend time with, something to fill my time, but I'd like to be able to or have the option to retire at 60.
Yeah, I mean, financial freedom, I guess, is always the biggest goal because it gives you freedom of time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's just been something that's been on my mind lately is like, what would I do if I didn't have to go to work? And it's like, yeah, I could probably burn a year doing the stuff I want to do, beaches, travel to different places, whatever. But after a year, it's like, dang, okay, I got a lot of time in the day. What am I going to do? So it's really weird to think about, like, what if I didn't have to go to work?
I think the largest driving factors for me are ability, mobility, health. There's a lot of things I want to build, do, create with my hands. There's a lot of things I'd like to achieve in my lifetime. And if I work, and retire and I don't have the physical ability to achieve those things, what's it all for, I guess?
Right, exactly.
If I start to see my body starting to decline pretty rapidly, I'll probably retire sooner. And if I have to live more stringent, I would. Because I think health's really important.
Yeah. So you said 60. Mm-hmm. What's your number? Do you have a number picked out yet?
So I'm probably one of the last people in the country that still is offered a pension.
Oh, wow.
My pension hasn't started yet. I don't start contributing to it till next year, but that'll play a factor in it. It's really hard to gauge what that looks like
that far down the road.
Yeah. Mostly because, one, I haven't started contributing to it. For those of you who don't know, I'm 34. If I end up moving up into a different role, I may not have the same access to that pension or contribution to it. So that'll play a factor of how my pension would play into it. If I exclude that altogether, at that point, basically what I'm trying to do is come up with a amount of money I'd like to make annually and then reverse engineer that backwards. So I've been playing with different numbers. It also makes a difference. My significant other's younger than I am, and to me, it's important. I'd like to retire around the same time.
That makes sense.
I don't want to just sit home all day and she's still working. I think, we'd like to enjoy retirement together. So it's hard. She's starting retirement saving earlier than I have, I guess. But if I were to look at it solely by myself, I was playing numbers the other day, shooting for like 2.5 million would be really nice. But then realistically, my other savings outside of retirement, pension plans all come into play, Social Security, if we ever even get that. After that, I was looking more at like 1.5 million. And I figure I could get to 1.5 if I stuck $7,500 in my savings or my retirement every year until I'm 60.
Nice.
Which right now isn't doable, but in a couple of years I can, based on what I will be making.
Yeah, obviously, healthcare and the way the economy goes, and there's a lot of factors that play into what that number is going to look like. Inflation, like you just mentioned. So there's various calculators online and stuff, but it's good to have just like a goal, like you said, 1.5, 2.5. Perfect.
And then that's definitely not necessarily for everyone.
Right.
That is by no means you need to have that much to retire.
So what you're comfortable living on.
Yeah, what I was looking at is I'm also taking into consideration the cost of everything is going to continue to go up. Gas, food, everything is going to get more expensive. Some people figure everything will be paid off and they don't need to make as much as money in retirement. Other people want to save a whole bunch of money and have a lot of money in retirement. I would like to maintain. I would like to just live the current lifestyle I will be over the next couple decades.
It's funny you mentioned Social Security. What are your thoughts on that? Are we going to get it? Are we not going to get it? Does it even matter?
If it was up to me, I'd like to opt out. If that were an option.
Do tell.
It's not. The rate of return's horrendous. For the amount of money you put into retirement or into Social Security, you don't get an adequate amount of money back. I think the Social Security program needs to get reworked. I think people that make, I don't want to throw out a specific number, but if you make a good amount of money in retirement, I don't think you should get Social Security. Everyone gets up in arms about that, saying they paid in. It's not Social Security retirement plan. It's Social Security tax. There's all kinds of taxes we don't register benefit from. The whole point of taxes is to collect money and redistribute it. It's for people who don't have money in retirement for whatever reason. If they were disabled, they have health issues. If, say, they got divorced and weren't able to make that money back up in retirement, it's not an investment account for everyone.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense when you put it that way.
If you're making
I feel the same way.
If you're making several million a year in retirement, you don't need Social Security.
Yeah, right. So we've been talking about the future a lot. There's so many things that are just running through my mind. I guess the things that matter the most are our kids going to be okay?
That's tough to say. There's a lot of different issues going on. Housing being one of them. Housing affordability has been at an all-time low. I think the job market's okay. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. The biggest thing is you just got to find, you have to invest in some way, shape, or form. You have to find a way to save money and also not lose the value of that money.
Yeah. I guess the reason I asked too is we constantly are referred to as a generation that won't outperform our parents. And I worry about that for our kids.
I think about that quite often as well. I don't have kids, but I do plan to. And that does worry me. There are certain challenges and struggles, and I definitely wouldn't want those for my kids. I'm not the type of person that would want to die with a bunch of money and give it to my kids. I think oftentimes that money just gets squandered, or they don't learn the correct lessons and how to preserve money or make their own money or be productive. But I also, if things continue to go the way they are and there are those struggles, I would like to be able to help my kids with basic needs such as housing. And I'm not saying buy them a house, but make sure they always have a roof over their head. If they ever have a desire to further their education, I would make sure that that's a possibility. I'd like to anyway.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Just that last sentence you said. I think we should dwell on this. I feel like there are so many different things we could talk about in the future. I guess I'd like to know what our listeners want to talk about.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what their fears are for the future, because it is scary, but like you said, there's a lot of opportunity. And that's what we're here to unpack.
If you guys have any questions for us, if there's anything you want to learn about, anything you'd like us to dive into, questions to answer, drop a comment below. We can do a video on it. We can privately message you, but we definitely want to engage with you guys. Thank you guys for watching. We hope to see you on the next one.
Smash that like button.
Subscribe.